sending this. I was tardy in asking others to jump in. If there's anybody who would like to read it, let me know. And if not, I will go ahead. Let us acknowledge we reside in the ancestral lands and waters of the Coast Salish people, who have called this place home since time immemorial. And let us honor inherent Aboriginal and treaty rights that have been passed down from generation to generation. Okay, let's begin with a roll call.
All right, Sharon.
Here.
Dave
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Bill,
Here.
Janet,
Here.
Kyle, David Dellendorf,
Here.
Paul. I see you. Jane,
Here.
thank you. Patty,
Here.
Tony,
Present.
Dick,
Here.
Liz, Bob, Kevin,
Here.
Olivia, Maureen,
Hear. Hear ye, hear ye.
Anne Marie, and Tom.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So we have approval of the minutes from June 9th. And I saw some, I apologize, I did not read the exchange, but I saw an exchange on our email traffic about the minute. And I believe somebody had a question maybe. Was there something on the minutes? No.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Tony?
Oh yeah, please, Tony, please go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't see.
Tony, you're breaking up.
Can't hear you, Tony.
Tony, we can't hear you. Maybe turn off your video.
The
Yeah.
corrected version, but the version that I saw making a motion. Is it better now?
Yes, it is. It is. It is. And I saw that,
Yeah.
yeah, you sent in some corrections. So is that
Right.
what you're proposing?
Yes, I did not make the motion, so I'm suggesting that that should be struck out. I was just putting it in chat to remind one of the commissioners of what the motion was on the 27th of May. And then the other one was regarding the ranked choice voting. It says something about
Oh, Tony, you're breaking up again.
Tony.
Tony, I was going to ask where you are because it looks.
Do it. That wasn't, so it was more of, wasn't asked to do it. So, sorry.
Tony, we can't hear
Listen.
you. I'm glad you're somewhere that looks beautiful. I don't think you're at home, but wherever it is, lucky for you, it looks like there's not very good coverage. I hope you take full advantage of that. I think we have two things. Tony did, and I was just looking at the email. Tony did send in those corrections via email. So if folks had a chance to look at them, I would be willing to accept a motion that we accept the minutes as amended by Commissioner Gazelle. Alternatively, okay. I was just going to say, alternatively, we could just postpone the adoption of the minutes until the following week. But I have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes as amended by Commissioner Gazelle. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes are adopted. Thank you, Tony. I hope you can hear us. I will try and keep an eye on chat. And if you have something you need to add, or if others see something from Commissioner Gazelle in chat, please let me know because I often miss those things. Now what I'd like to do is move into a deck. Catherine, do I have screen sharing authority?
You should, yes.
Okay, great. Oh, and the other thing is for commissioners and members of the public, I've said this about a half dozen times at least. I'd like to try and hold to it tonight. I would actually like us to end early tonight because there's a lot of other work on the commission that at least I, and I know some others are involved in, kind of trying to think through finalizing some of our amendments. But the point is, I think it'd be great if we could end early tonight. So we have advertised that public comment will be at 4:50 today instead of 5:50. And hopefully finish shortly thereafter, but we'll see how it goes. We'll take the entire time if we need it, but we have advertised that we may end early. So that is out there. So in the last meeting, you, the full commission, tasked what we're calling our executive committee, which is a bunch of rabble rousers, with trying to further slim down the proposed amendments, recognizing that we've had the back and forth on whether or not we can have 1 or 2 years worth of batches and so on. And so the main task was to further reduce the number of amendments for the ballot for this year. And then propose which of those would be recommendations or those would be on a second ballot or what have you. And what I'd like to do is walk through this and then have a bit of Q&A afterward. So let me get through the slides and then we can have a bit of Q&A, and then hopefully we can take action on adopting this recommendation from the from your subcommittee as a path forward for us. And again, the next item is we're going to have an update from the subcommittees on where they are in finalizing their amendments. And then following that, we're going to have a brief discussion on the next steps and the timeline for how we go forward. And so you'll see one of these recommendations is about the second year. And hopefully this isn't cart and horse, but let me get into these slides and we can go from there. So. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you'll remember, this was where we were as of last week. These are the amendments that have been proposed by the full commission. And I recognize some of them had not unanimous votes, but when I say the full commission, I'm saying that the commission, as a majority of the commission, took action, which means the commission took action. So as of last week, we had 11. Actually, today we still have 11 proposed charter amendments. Term limits, the creation of the Climate and Environment Commissioner, declaration of the community values, the justice and equity portion of the charter, the Coast Salish acknowledgement. The number 6, we already got information from our counsel, from our attorney, that those 3 could all be combined as they were all associated with initiative and referendum. And then we were looking at revisions of the preamble in general. And then there was the non-discrimination section. And then the charter budget and provisions, that's the pieces that we've established for our own governance in the future. So a future charter revision or charter review commission, their budget and how they will all operate, recognizing that we had some struggles this year and we're trying to perfect that process as we go forward for folks who take our role in the future. Then there was the public advocate, and then ranked choice voting. This is what, after many, many hours of discussions, we are trying to narrow it down to and would like to present to you today for consideration. So the first amendment, and let me say a little bit about this. The process we went through was sort of an action of, I'm sure many of you know the expression, things are timely and critical, and some things are timely and critical. And so we looked at, which of these was critical, and pretty much every one of these somebody would argue is critical as far as even our past amendments. Let me go back and look at this actually for a sec. So with these, everybody would argue, or somebody would argue, that every one of these is critical. Some of them, however, are more timely than others. And so what we tried to do when we narrowed it down was take into consideration which ones we really felt needed to be on the ballot for 2021. And so the term limits issue for the county council, which is 3 term limits, was proposed as being on the ballot this November. Folks on the executive committee and with input from other commissioners in previous conversations felt that that was still very important. The creation of the Climate and Environment Commissioner. While it feels like a decade ago, it was less than a year ago that hundreds and hundreds of islanders were rallying with signs of Greta and others in climate rallies around our county. And also in the last 24 months, significant rallies took place as well. And so there's been a real push for climate action, and everybody recognized that. And then there's an ongoing push in our community for greater environmental conservation. At the very end of our meeting, we heard kind of a sidebar, and so we will not attribute this to strict legal advice, but we believe that we could easily combine the Coast Salish Acknowledgement, the Declaration of Community Values, and the revised preamble language under one ballot measure, which would be a revised introduction. They make sense, they go together. It seems a natural fit for us. So that condenses 3 different ballot measures into one. We did the same with the next one, which is if we really looked at the non-discrimination section of the charter, it has 2 points. One is adding non-discrimination language into the charter, as Jane has pointed out to us, that we are one of the few charters in the state that has 0 language on this, and it's far past time that we do. And then the other piece of the non-discrimination actions in the charter is the creation of the commission. And so we hope to combine those into one. The 5th one is with regard to initiative and referendum, which we already are combining those 3 segments. And so what we're proposing is for the this November's 2021 November ballot, we will put forward 5 amendments. That to us, not just feels like, but based on a lot of research, seems to be an adequate number for a single ballot, is to have 5 different propositions on there, recognizing there will probably be others from things totally unrelated to the charter. But if we put forward 5, we felt like that was a good prioritization of the work that we've done and a realistic number for one ballot. We are also still proposing that we do a second batch. And we are proposing that the Charter Review Commission budget and procedures be in that second batch. And again, this is really important that we fix this before another Charter Review Commission comes on board. But another Charter Review Commission isn't going to come on board for 10 years. And so we felt like this could be on the second ballot. The other thing is the public advocate. Again, very important, but it could be on a second ballot. And the third piece was ranked choice voting. And I want to point out that on the executive committee is Sharon Abreu, who's been one of our greatest advocates for ranked choice voting and probably one of the more knowledgeable commissioners on ranked choice voting. Even she, all of these were unanimous votes, by the way, well, actually there wasn't a vote. We're not taking votes. It's more of a, nodding, but everybody, my point is everybody felt like this was a good suggestion. And one of the reasons ranked choice voting can be on the second one is, if you'll remember, the way we put ranked choice voting forward as an amendment to the ballot would be that San Juan County would initiate ranked choice voting the moment the state does. Well, the state hasn't done it this year, and the legislature's gone. What I mean by gone is they've concluded their work for the 2021 session. And so at the very earliest, this would be coming forward for 2022. And looking at the prioritization in Olympia of other issues around voting and voting rights and so on, I'm not sure this would even see, and also in conversations I've had with folks, I'm not even sure it happens in 2022. But the exciting thing is San Juan County would put its name out there. Exciting for some of you positive, some of you negative maybe. But the idea is that San Juan County would put its name out there in 2022 saying we support ranked choice voting the moment it's possible for more than just our local elected officials. The caveat I have on this slide in the dark blue is to recognize that we still have some back and forth on whether or not we can do a second batch. I think the law is pretty clear. As Randy has stated, it is not necessarily a legal opinion. He's saying that we can't do this. What he has said is it might be wise to take him, and this is me summarizing his advice to us, but that it might be wise for us to take a conservative approach with regard to this, because there could be challenges on anything we put forward as a second round of amendments for a 2022 ballot. And so what we discussed at the executive committee was the idea that the second round, if over the next, and I'm not talking next months, I'm talking over the next weeks, we, in doing more research, figure out that these, that we're not as comfortable to do a second batch of amendments, then these would be considered recommendations to the county council. So they would be added to the recommendations list and not be in the charter through this. The county council could do them through the charter at a later date, which we could argue for, and the public who supports these issues could. So on to the recommendations. Currently, recognizing those previous three could become recommendations, but right now we are proposing them as the second ballot amendments, second year's ballot amendments. These are the current recommendations that we have. Tourism management, the elections observation. Again, some very important issues, but what we realize is we had too many very important issues. We would need 4 years worth of ballots if we wanted to do all of these. And so this is already a decision we've made. This has already been voted upon, that these now would be recommendations to the county council. And I believe one of them was to the auditor, if I remember correctly. But these will go forward as recommendations. So again, what we are proposing is that there be the 5 amendments that I listed for 2021, 3 for 2022, recognizing the full commission may have to come back and revisit that before our work is concluded. And then the 12 recommendations that I just showed you. So with that, I will, does anybody want to go back and do you need to look at those again, or can I stop screen share?
Could you show the first slide again so I could take a screenshot?
Yeah, you mean this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it, Tom?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stop screen share and let's have a little bit of discussion. And then again, what we're trying to do is actually move forward on and see if we can go forward with this proposal. So I see Dick, your hand up, and hang on one sec. Let me just write down everybody's name. I've got, keep your hands up for 1 second, please. I've got Dick, and then I've got Paul and Patty and David. Were there any others right now? Okay, Dick, please go ahead.
I agree with what you said at the outset, that we as a commission have had a lot of discussion of this basic proposal. And we've got some small changes here in terms of combining things. But as I've made clear in the last several meetings, I'm strongly in favor of pushing ahead with our work. And I think this is, I thought it before, and a majority of the commission agreed this is a solid proposal and a good approach. So I'm going to do something I don't typically do. I'm going to put a motion on the floor. And I move that we adopt this as our plan of action going forward, as it's been presented tonight.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Okay, under discussion. I have Paul and then Patty and then David.
I'm going to, after listening to Dick, I think I'm going to bow out. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Patty, And
My
then
question was, in the recommendations, I thought I saw the statement of community values, which is actually one of the second thing we're gonna be voting on, or first, that's a preamble. Am I confused?
Yeah.
If that was in there, I think,
Wait a
No,
minute.
no, it goes in there.
It's all right. I think what the recommendation is that there's, yeah, it's a different kind of thing on the statement of community values. I got confused. Never mind.
I'm a little confused, actually. So
Huh?
David and Dave, who are next, can I go to Bob quickly just so he can clarify that? Okay, Bob, please go ahead.
Yeah, of course, we've got the Declaration of Community Values, and then there's a part that goes with that is the recommendation to the county council, to all elected officials and all department heads, that they use these values in going forward with doing the people's business, and that from time to time they report on their success using these values going forward to the people's business. That's the
Wonderful.
recommendation.
Thank you, Bob.
All right.
Okay, David Dellendorf.
Turn your mic on.
Muted.
I was going to say the same thing as Patty, that there seemed to be duplication. I got to tell you, I don't understand what Bob just explained. I'd have to think about it. I don't want him to re-explain, but it seems like there's duplication. It could be included. The two could be included. One subject with both of them. No?
No.
So David, as somebody who is also confused, let me take a crack at trying to summarize it and see if I've got it, and maybe that'll help you. So the statement of community values is the actual statement, and that is part of what would be proposed as a new amendment that would include that and the the Coast Salish acknowledgement and the revised preamble language. So those would all be in a new introduction section. The second piece, which is a recommendation, is to ask all of the elected officials in the county to begin using that community value statement that says we care about justice, we care about the environment, we care about the people who live here, and so on, as a core value of their department. Is a very rough summary. Bob, have I got that right?
Yes, and the second part is from time to time to report back to the people how they have been successful or unsuccessful in using those values in guiding themselves in performing the people's business.
Okay, great.
Could I
Yeah,
continue?
go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to ask you to clarify, all of the recommendations that we have here are things that the county council can implement. There's nothing in there in that list that is something that's outside of the purview of the
David,
county. Is that correct?
Yeah, and thank you for raising that. Actually, I forgot. I should have mentioned that in the beginning of my deck. One of the other criteria we looked at was are these things that could be done by the county council and don't have to be. And now there's some things that can be done by the county council, but they're better and more permanent if they're in the charter. And there were some things where we literally said, this could easily be done by the council, and why don't we just make it a recommendation? So your point is well made, and the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Dave Anderson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. On David's point there, I think there was one recommendation that came out of governance that was actually really only could have been read as an amendment, and it was clarifying who the county manager, who works for the county manager, and who that position oversees. So I think that might not be able to be a recommendation because it would require changing of language to the charter, which county council can't do without an actual amendment. So that's just one.
Is this composition of administrative departments?
I
think
I'm not sure. It's section 7.20.
Yeah, I think that summarizes composition of administrative departments. When we looked at that, and others, please jump in if I've got this wrong or right or whatever. Tell me I'm nuts. Okay, I know I am, but
Okay, we know that.
So, and Jane, I've got you on the list. I think our understanding there was that it was more of a clarification of what is there. It was clarifying what was administrative departments. And so we felt that the language switch could be something that while the charter wouldn't necessarily reflect it, the county council by ordinance could clarify that, that same subject. And then a later charter commission, when they wanted to do the nuts and bolts cleanup, could get on that.
That wasn't my comment, though. I was just wanting to talk what David.
Okay, please go ahead.
I do have a concern about everything fitting under one ballot title. I do worry about initiatives that whether that would make the muster of actually being under the one subject. And I'm wondering if we can get like a commitment from the from our attorney to that he would defend it with a positive defense, that he supports all these. Or it also, I have a question, is there a chance for a preemptive challenge to these amendments before they go to the ballot? Do we know?
So well, frankly, there's always,
Yeah.
somebody can always make a legal argument and challenge anything. So that's always out there. On your first point, the initiative and referendum stuff, when we had, and again, I tried to state this very loosely. Randy made a comment at the end of the last meeting, like he pointed to that one and said, like that one I could see being combined. That is not a firm legal opinion from our council. And I want to underscore that 50 times. That is our council looking at that and saying, that's an example of something we could look at. All of these, once we adopt this, and once we finish our process that we're going through with Megan right now, where we have the actual language, then Megan will, and again, there was a question from our council on this. So let me clarify the process that we've adopted. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's on right now. But just for the record, the process we have adopted as a commission in a public meeting was that our subcommittee leads are working with subcommittee members who are very involved on an individual issue, and they are drafting language in an underlined strikeout form as best they can. They are giving that to Megan. Megan then goes through, uses her professional expertise that she has to get that as close to final language as she can. That then comes back to you as a subcommittee lead, or another person who was and another person who may be a passionate person working on that issue, and me. Once it is agreed that that is the gist of what we were trying to say, then I send that to Randy. That's the process we've established. There was a question about that via email, and I had to write back clarifying that process again. So I'm saying it again now. So that's the process we have. During that process, when it goes to Randy, Dave, specific to your question, Randy will come back. And if he says, you know, I've researched this and I don't think those can be combined, then we as a full commission need to look at it again and say, okay, do we want to have 3 more amendments? These now have to be 1, 2, 3 instead of one that's combined. Do we want to have those as 3 different propositions on the ballot, or do we want to have a discussion about scrapping a couple of those, or maybe bumping them to another year, or a recommendation or whatever? So what we're proposing isn't necessarily the final product. What we're proposing is a path forward. And then hopefully we get the green light from our council. That is a good way to go. And if he comes back to us and says, yeah, I think that's a great way to go, or even if he doesn't, it is his job as our attorney to defend our position. So we don't have to take all of his advice. When he's giving us advice, however, we are wise to try and at least very thoroughly consider it, because what he's trying to do is tell us you have a greater chance of losing a challenge than positively defending a challenge. So I hope that in a very long-winded way explained or answered your question, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. And just one more thing. I think the executive committee did a great job here. It's really, it looked like a thoughtful lineup, and I'm really thankful for all the work they put into it. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks a lot. I have Janet, Jane, Bill, and Marie.
Well, Dave just stole my thunder. I wanted to thank the executive committee for all the hard work they put in. And I'm fully supportive of this breakdown, especially seeing that we need to move things forward, get to the prosecutor and make final decisions about what we were doing. So I'm hoping that this will be the first push of like really moving things forward to get us going to get our final minutes. But and again, I want to thank the executive committee for putting in the long hours and the additional work. So that's it. Support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just simply wanted to say it wasn't an easy process in terms of whittling down what were many proposed amendments and coming up with this. And I think that as just looking at the presentation as it's just been given to us all, and which is, you know, a reminder of the work that we've done to get us to this stage, it strikes me quite profoundly that it's extremely important, in my view, that in leaving at the table of the county council such significant and important recommendations, which were very thoroughly considered over many months of work by the CRC, that we need to put some effort into generating some understanding and awareness as to why we feel these recommendations are of importance. And so that is not work for now, it is work for later. They deserve that. They deserve that kind of information and sort of understanding, because we have put a tremendous amount of hours, the 18 of us, in the 8 subcommittees we had. And I don't think that to a person of us, we feel that any of these are not important. And I think in one level or another. And so we owe it to our county council to fully inform them as to the merits of these recommendations. So I just wanted to offer that.
Jane, thank you very much for underscoring that. You're spot on. I have Bill and then Anne-Marie.
I recognize that one of the dynamics working on this motion, which I support, is how soon another CRC could be called. As a member of the previous CRC, I can tell you that the thought wasn't we had to wait 10 years for the next CRC. It was that we would at most have to wait 10 years for another CRC, but there was no prohibition for a CRC coming earlier. Patty Miller and I had a huge argument about this. Opponents of what was put up was insisted that we can't look at it for another year. I think at this point, looking back in history, we should ask Randy what his opinion is, because I think this is an important dynamic that's in all of our minds is, well, when do we have a second shot? Somewhere in the back of our minds. And I think we should ask Randy, okay, what do these mean? Could we have a CRC within 10 years? Frankly, I thought at the time that we could.
Okay. I've not even, the way I read the charter is that it's every 10 years. The first one was 5 years, and then after that it's every 10, but you're the attorney and Bob's an attorney. So Bob,
I'm only a witness at this point, but
I
10 years is as long as you can wait. It
Right.
doesn't say it could be shorter. And that's the point. A shorter period is not impermissible. That's my point. We should ask Randy.
Okay. Bob, did you want to respond to that before I go to Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I can give you the answer. It's it's a maximum of 10 years. Other than that, you can have it any time within that period, as long as the election itself takes place on an even numbered year, so that the commission would do its work, having been elected on the even number year in an odd number year. So every 2 years, we could have another election in 2022 for the next commission, if for God's sake we wanted to.
I'm just sorry I don't want to go too far into this, but who calls the charter review? Who calls it then? Who says we're having it?
Oh,
Elections.
oh yeah.
I think it's elections.
I think that it may be the council. Let me take a look and I'll tell you in just a second. I mean, don't wait up for me, but
I don't think this council wants us back anytime soon. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, let's move on. Anne-Marie, please. You're muted, Anne-Marie.
I said I'm good. I think I was covered. My stuff was covered.
Okay, wonderful. Asked and answered. I love that. Any other comments? Okay, we're under discussion of the full CRC adopting this proposed. Oh, I see. Okay, Sharon. Sharon, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to call the question.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're doing that anyway. But I saw
Yeah,
Bill.
we are.
Bill, did you have something? No. Okay. So I just wanted to repeat the motion. So the motion is to move forward with the 5 proposed amendments for 2021, the 3 proposed amendments for 2022, and the 11, I think it's 11, maybe it's 12 recommendations, whatever it was I just presented. I think it's 12 actually. So any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Paul and Tom are both opposed. Any abstentions? Looks like Kyle is abstaining. Okay, so motion carries with 2 opposed, being Paul and Tom, and 1 abstention, being Commissioner Davies. Okay, thank you all very much. So the next thing, and give me 1 second, I want to pull up my notes from the last meeting, is I want to go through and do a bit of a round robin again on the where we are with our getting our information to Megan, and then where Megan is on getting it back to us. So I'm going to go from my notes based on the last meeting, and then we can update those as we go forward. So I understood last time that the issues of initiative and referendum, the signatures, the financial, and the regulating signature gatherers, that was with Megan. Is that finished? Do you have that back from Megan now? Is that on my lap now?
No.
Okay. Still with Megan. Let me change the color of my pen here. All right. Still. Today's the 16th, right? Yes. 6/16. Okay. Term limits. That was with Megan at our last meeting. Is it still with Megan, or have you gotten that back? Do I have that?
Term limits has been turned in incomplete.
Okay. Have I, and I'm sorry to be this brain dead, guys, but I've had too many meetings in the charter. So have I already sent that to Randy? You would have been copied on it.
I don't know, but I don't know that you have done that. I know that you got a copy and so did Megan.
Randy. Okay. Oh, Megan got a copy, but has Megan sent it back to you?
No.
Okay, so it's still with Megan. Okay. Okay. The preamble, whatever we're calling it, the new introduction, which is the preamble, the value statement, and such, and then also the CRC budget piece. Those were all sent to Megan. Bob, do you have those back from Megan?
I sent it to Megan, the introduction thing. I sent to Megan, like 10 days or something ago. She acknowledged immediately that she had received them, and I haven't heard back from her.
Okay. And look, in Megan's defense, I want to clarify, she's been going crazy. First of all, we slammed her with a bunch of stuff, and some of the biggest ones that we knew were going to take a lot of time, justice and equity and climate, she turned around very quickly. So I think that's where she appropriately prioritized her time over the last days. So I'm sure we'll start seeing these back. The intro is with Megan. What about the CRC budget piece? That's not a recommendation, or no?
Right, that's an amendment, and I don't think I have done that yet. So I should do it immediately.
Yes.
That got by me, I guess.
So with Bob, so you need to do that.
Yep.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this one. Anne Marie, the Climate Environment Commissioner, has been sent to Megan, and it's been sent back, and I sent it to Randy.
That's right. And Megan has a fact sheet. And I've got good news. The San Juan County Council on Tuesday has agreed that they need to do something about climate and the environment. So all of the hard work is paying off, guys. We just got to keep moving that ball. Congrats.
Yay.
Yay. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But thank you, Anne Marie. And I too am excited. It's awesome. Okay, so Climate Commissioner, the elected official position and that department is with Randy, and we do not have it back from Randy. Okay, justice and equity. That has been sent to Randy, and we received information back from Randy in the last like 24 hours or something. Jane, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yes, indeed, that the three amendments that we're putting forward were sent to him last week, and we received comments from him on Monday and this past Monday, and those comments, I have asked the executive committee to discuss them and come back to the full CRC with some thoughts on those comments and how we want to proceed. Yeah, so that's where we stand with that.
Okay, great. And the tribal acknowledgement, that is
Already taken care of.
It's taken care of. Okay. Ranked choice, Sharon.
Yes. Okay. So I worked on that amendment for ranked choice voting, and I have submitted that language to Megan.
Okay. And then again, when that comes back, that one will go to Sharon as the lead drafter, but also to the, who is the lead on that subcommittee? I'm sorry, Sharon.
Tony.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. That one goes to the full commission.
That goes to full
That one's
commission.
going to come back to the full commission because it was a full commission vote. So, and actually all of these will come back to the full commission. It's just the process in which they come back. So that one, when we get it back from Megan, I will submit it to Randy, and then that will come back. When it comes back from Randy, then we will review it. That one is a full commission. And so on. And actually, as they come back from Randy, if there's questions, many of those will come to the full commission as well. I saw a hand a moment ago.
That was,
Bob, go ahead. And
yeah,
then
I just got temporarily confused. I'm sure you can clear this up for me, as between sending things to Randy and sending things to Megan. The committee sends them to Megan. We get them back, give them to you, and you send them to Randy. Is that right? So Randy is the last stop.
No, then it comes back from Randy, and he will have advice for us, and then we will discuss that advice, and maybe that will be discussed at the subcommittee level, and then a recommendation comes back, or the full commission discusses it. It will depend on the individual item, and then we will choose how to move forward. It hasn't happened yet, but maybe Randy comes back and says, awesome, you guys did perfect, and then we can just say, okay, that amendment's going to the ballot. But that's the process we're going through. So, and that's the process I just went over 10 minutes ago, as far as, and last week, the one that we adopted. So, but again, yes, subcommittee leads are sending it to Megan. Megan does her incredible work, sends it back to us, sends it back to me and the subcommittee lead. And then if the subcommittee lead says, yes, that is what we said, then I send it on to Randy. And so the ranked choice is now with Megan. When we get it back, that will go to Randy. The public advocate in the motion we just adopted is now a 2022, I believe, measure, but it's still in the process. Or was that a recommendation? I think it was 2022 measure.
22.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And so that was with Paul and Maureen, I believe, is what I have in my notes. And so where is that at this point?
Megan has both the fact sheets as well as the proposal.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go back through these quickly, repeat what I just wrote down, just make sure I've got it right. And then also I want to know about fact sheets. The initiative and referendum ones are with Megan. Do we have, has Megan also been sent information for a fact sheet on that?
No.
No. Okay, so the fact sheet needs to be done by you and sent to Megan.
Okay.
And again, what Megan is working on is a fact sheet that will be a summarization that's kind of one boilerplate for many of them. And then what we imagined was that maybe the climate, environment, and justice and equity, the two ones that need a lot of explanation, would have separate maybe pages or bullet points. And I believe Megan was also working on pulling together some of the fact sheet information from what she already had too. So Megan, did you have a comment?
Muted.
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
First, I'm sorry. I know I'm behind. Thank you for your patience. I got buried in another thing too. I would like to ask everyone a favor. In my other gig, I ended up applying for a federal grant at the last minute, and I ended up with about 200 or 300 emails in my email box all at once. I would like to ask you, if you are a subcommittee chair and I have a document pending with you, can you just resend me that email? That would be extremely helpful. Kevin, you did receive a summary fact sheet from me today.
I saw that. I just haven't read it yet.
Okay, so I think it needs to be tweaked now that we're condensing some of this stuff, and I can do that really easily. I still think people are having trouble understanding the fact sheets, or you guys want a different product, and I think we need to clarify that. So for me, the fact sheet has always been not a one-pager per amendment. It has been a one-page document summarizing your activities as a whole. So if there is a need for individual fact sheets, we need to establish which ones actually require that, because I think most of them don't.
That's right.
Okay. It's too much information, and you guys are like, people are spending tons of time just sending me text after text after like pages of text. And I don't really always know what it's for. I do think some of it can be used as the findings for the council to accompany it. But I am finding that I've been sort of bombarded with so many emails that I'm having trouble keeping track of the document. So it might be useful, I guess I'm kind of thinking out loud right now, if the subcommittee chairs could do one email to me with the actual amendment language, what they want in effect. I mean, don't worry about the fact sheets at this point. And then, so I guess I'm looking for two documents, the actual amendment language, and then fact sheet findings, whatever it is that you have written out that accompanies that document.
Okay, so let me try and summarize that with a little bit of a twist. And I'm going to go through them. So right now, so Patty, if you could send to Megan again the language for the reduce signature gathering, remove financials, regulate signature gatherers, to Patty again, so she has that on top of her inbox. And then maybe, and Megan, tell me if this would work for you, 2 or 3, and I actually have this in my notes from last week, which means I said it last week too, but 2 or 3 bullet points describing kind of, no, that doesn't help
Don't
you?
do it at this point. I've done it.
Okay, okay, cool. So
I've
just
done it
Patty,
for
if
everyone.
yeah.
We need to
Okay.
review those at some
Yep.
point.
Okay, so Patty, just if you could resend to Megan, and then Maureen, if you can resend term limits.
Yes.
Bob O'Connell, if you can resend the intro.
The way that we originally were supposed to do it, or this new way?
I would do it the new way.
I mean, because I've got it here, and it was a lot of work to put it together this way. It has the actual language of the amendment in it. And so if I send this to her, she'll get the actual language.
Okay,
Do it,
that's
Megan?
fine.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll resend this to you.
And then Bob, you need to finish the CRC budget proposal too.
Yes.
And that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Climate environment is with Randy. Justice and equity is back from Randy. Tribal acknowledgement will be part of that intro. So Bob, you will get that to Megan, or is that coming?
He's already got it. It was all,
Done.
those 3 things are part of
Okay.
one amendment.
Okay, just put it all, just resend it to her.
I will.
And in your subject, put what it is.
Resending, yeah.
Okay. Sharon, Megan, you just got ranked choice in the last 24 hours or something. Do you have that on top of your inbox, or do you need Sharon to send it to you again? You got it?
I think I can find that one.
Okay. Okay. And then public advocate, Paul and Maureen, could you resend that, please?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So that'll get us going on that piece. And with that, we're right at 4:50. We've advertised that public comment would take place at 4:50 today. So what I'd like to do is close this discussion temporarily and go to public comment. So if there's anybody here from the public who would like to speak to us today, please turn on your video if you're so able, and unmute yourself and let us know. And if you would like to speak, please identify yourself and where you're from. All right. Not seeing anybody, I'm going to close public comment and move us back in. We have a number of recommendations that are also being finalized. And I understand from my notes last time, some of those have been sent to Megan. Some of those are still in our hands. I don't want to dive into those right now. I want us to stay focused on the amendments. Those are the most timely matters. Are folks okay with that if we stay focused on the top priority right there? Okay.
Yes.
And again, it's not that those other recommendations are not critical, as was pointed out by Jane. one of the jobs we have now is transitioning from finalizing our work into making sure the council and others understand why we're putting things forward. So let me go back to no.
David has his hand up.
Yeah, give me 1 second, David. Okay, David.
I can understand that commissioners that are not part of an individual subcommittee that is in a dialogue with Randy would want to get involved or should be involved in that back and forth. Just be too many hands, too many cooks. However, I want to ask, when the final or next to final product is agreed to by the subcommittees and Randy, will there be one final chance for all commissioners to take a look at it? And I say that specifically because I had looked at the climate and environment amendment that was distributed by Anne Marie the other day. And there's some things in there that I would like to comment on, but I don't know how to do that, wait till later or send them to Anne Marie, or what is the process? But more specifically, are we going to have one last chance to review it? Not just C&E, but any of the amendments.
So if you had something, and keep it with C&E as an example, if you have something that you'd like to comment on, then I think you sending your comments to the chair of the subcommittee would be appropriate, so that Anne Marie can take that into consideration as she's doing a ton of work as she is right now on that issue. So I think that's appropriate and timely. I would also encourage all of us not to, I'll get to your other question in 1 sec. I also want to encourage all of us not to, bog down each other. The process that we've agreed to is, and I'm just going to say it again, the whole thing. First, the subcommittee chairs, or in the case of ranked choice, Sharon is taking the lead on that because it was a commission vote, not a subcommittee vote, will finalize the language in underlined strikeout form and send that, or in as best form as they can get forward, to Megan. Megan then does what she does, sends it back to subcommittee chair and to me, but the subcommittee chair, or I'll say the lead, looks at it and says, yes, that's what was agreed upon. And, thank you, Megan, for making it not just sound better, but be in a more professional format as far as how it's drafted. And then if I get that green light from the lead on the subject that, yes, indeed, it's what was voted on by the full commission, then I send that to Randy. Randy has been very clear that when he sends his comments back, he's sending them to the full commission. So that will come back to the full commission. And then where there are differences or questions or issues raised by the prosecutor, we will discuss those. And as I said a moment ago, some of those will be discussed by subcommittees just because it's appropriate for the people who are experts on that to dive in. But if others want to chime in on something, feel free to. And I think the way you should do that is you should send your comments to the subcommittee chair and say, I'm not on your committee, but when this came back, I have these questions or issues or concerns or whatever they may be. I'd like you to consider these. Then they will come back to the full commission. And again, the other process that Megan will be going through before she's done with us, even though I'm sure she'd like to run away today, is that she will be compiling everything into the new charter in that language. And that will include our decisions made based on Randy's advice, whether or not we choose to follow that advice, or maybe we have a different suggestion or something, but we will be finalizing the full document. And then we will be saying, yes, this is it. And that is what we're moving forward to the county council in either 1 or 2 batches. So that's the full process. So David, I feel like you have 2 more touches. One is with individual subcommittee chairs as stuff comes back. And one is as we look at the final full document. I would hope, however, we're not trying to revisit individual votes when we're doing that final full document. It should not be a process of, I didn't like the way a vote went. And I'm not directing this at you, David, I'm directing it at all of us. But it should not be I didn't like the way a vote went, so I want a different item on there. It should be, yes, this flows as in line with what the full commission voted upon. So David, I'll let you respond, and then I've got Bob.
Yeah, two follow-ups to that. One is, I don't think any of us, or maybe just me, hasn't received anything other than C&E and perhaps the Justice and Equity. So it's I'm only commenting on C&E because I've seen that. But if we're going to be able to comment, we need to see all of them. And I know that raises a lot of issues, but still, it might be. But and the second point I'd like to make is, it does seem like things have been fleshed out in this process beyond what was specifically in the amendment that was voted on and approved. I may be wrong in some cases, but for example, the structure of the advisory committee, I don't know if we really voted on a structure. We just said advisory committee, but I have a comment about that advisory committee, and that's important. That may be that we voted it the way it's written. I'm not sure, but so it's complicated. But yeah, I understand we don't want to readdress issues we've already decided on, but there's other things that are additions that I think are meaningful. So,
yeah. So one clarification, then I'll go to Bob. I have been paying very close attention to what was originally voted upon and what is coming out, and I've not seen any differences. What I've seen is clarification. So the vote said, we're going to have a keeping with C&E. The vote said we're going to have a commissioner and they're going to be responsible for these duties. And now we've gone through and researched, okay, and Randy's advice to it. A lot of it is based on, Randy came back and said, you guys got to be more specific. You can't just say this person's responsible for or cares about, shorelines. What does that mean? And so, and he said, even citing the code. And so we went back or Anne Marie and others went back and said, okay, here's the code for this, here's the code, so that legally it comes together as it should. And so there's much more clarification. I have not seen one circumstance where something is in a current form that was not discussed in the amendment that originally passed. So Bob, I'm going to allow you one more and then I got to move on.
Okay, it's got two parts. First one
I'm
is
sorry, David, Bob, I'm sorry. I was going to let David just respond one more. He had his hand up again.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was going to comment on was something that was subsequent to the approval, and that is in a public session a week or two ago, Vince, I can't pronounce his last name. He's on the Apalco board. He made some very good, he made some very good comments about having some specifics, some deliverables, some metrics, and so I don't think those were in the original approval, and I think they're very. I think everybody agreed those were excellent comments. And that was one of the things I wanted to pass on to Anne Marie, that maybe we have something more specific in terms of deliverables and expectations. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, not re-litigating anything.
Anne Marie, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, that's a totally different process, and it's called frequently asked questions. And we have little statements that explain different things. And that's what he's talking about. And that's another step that our committee's working on. So I thank you, David, for bringing that up. And we can let everybody know that we're doing that and they may want to be doing it also with their items. Thanks again.
And David, where you or others have questions like that, please send them to the subcommittee chair. That's an excellent example. An excellent example. So thank you for raising that. And then I would just encourage you to send them to the subcommittee chairs, because as they get comments back from Randy or they hear the same comments you heard, they may be saying, hey, that's a good suggestion. How does that fit in where we are? And it may be that when I review that or others review it, we say, you know what, that is different than what was originally voted upon. So that needs to come back for consideration. At this point, we don't have those. David,
one sentence, just one sentence. Then I ask that all the subcommittee chairs distribute the most recent draft amendment and
David
and the fact sheets. Thank you.
David, we just discussed the fact sheets aren't done. What we have right now back from Megan and has been sent to Randy are J&E and C&E. So the two that you have, the reason you don't have more is they're not at that place yet. If you want more, you can reach out to a subcommittee member and you can get the pages of document before it's refined. But Megan is working really hard to get caught up right now. So you've got what everybody else has right now. And you can go back through your notes or review from previous meetings what existed before. But right now, Megan is doing her diligent work of streamlining those. And as they come back, they'll land on your lap just like those two that you have did. Everybody's in the same place you are right now. Okay, Bob.
Hey, two things. One is if Megan and other people are finding themselves pressed for time, do we want to point out the fact that we don't have the same timeline on the 3 that are going to 2022? Those, in fact, will be put before the council at some time after July, August, September, whenever we want to do it.
So I'll be following up with Megan after this to talk about prioritization,
Yeah.
but based on the vote that just took place 30 minutes ago, that would be one of the things I would say is, let's prioritize those 5. The other thing is I feel bad for Megan. Last week we gave her direction and said, here's these, however many it was, 11. And she's written them up as separate. And now some of those that she's already been working on are being combined. And so one of those you spotlighted, Bob. And so where you can help with that will be great for Megan's time as well. But I do think what's good is she has not spent too much time on the ones that we have combined now. Mainly, like I said, over the last week, she was focused on the justice and equity and climate and environment and getting those into a format that we could send to our prosecutor. But your point is well made. And I will be talking to Megan about that, but also Megan's here and she just heard that. So
the second thing that I wanted to add was, and I had this idea before you all had the back and forth with David, is that when I do, when I send the fact sheet back to her for the thing that I've already sent her at one time, and when I send the other fact sheet back to her, it's going to be an easy thing for me to do, and I will do it. I will include the names of each individual commissioners, not the overall thing because we just want, this is for the commissioners. I will include them also. So they'll get copies of the same fact sheets I'm sending to Megan. Is that okay with you, Kevin?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Megan had to jump off.
Yeah.
She's got other responsibilities too, but I will make sure she touches base on that as well.
If other people will do that, then David's problem will be resolved. He'll have those things pouring in.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want them. I just want to be very clear. David, you can get a bunch more emails. I do not. I don't want any emails unless I have to get them. I don't want emails unless they're coming back from Megan saying, this is done. Send it to Randy if the subcommittee approves.
Okay.
That's all I want. I'm overwhelmed with charter emails. I was filing them in my county email and I've given up on that now. It's just a long list of burning poop bags. Okay. So thank you guys for going through that again. It's tedious, but we're at that point where we're going through the tedious steps of actually finishing our work, which is exciting. So with that, I want to move to the next subject, which is next steps and timeline for those steps. So as I think most of you are aware, some of you may not be, but Anne-Marie touched upon this. The county council yesterday proposed a creation of, it could be summarized as everything we've put forward except for the elected position, which I think is really exciting. And Anne-Marie and I spoke about this, and Anne-Marie, I hope you don't mind, but Anne-Marie somebody made the analogy of, I feel like we've pushed a boulder all the way up the hill and now other people are recognizing it's there and it's really important. So I think this is a really exciting recognition of our work. And so now what we need to do is, back to Sharon's point actually, is continue to explain to county council, but to others, why we're putting forward what we're putting forward. Because what was lacking wasn't just the elected official in the county's proposal, but many people who have already called me and others on this commission have said it lacks the autonomy to actually do the strong work. And so I think they're coming at it from a different perspective than we have been, and maybe they're hearing from different constituents than we are. And so my hope is that we can work together to try and find a way to put forward really positive proposals that aren't in competition. I don't want to confuse the voters. I don't think any of us do. And as I've said in the past, I've researched this, and there obviously could be one that I haven't found, but I have not found a situation like this where a council or a council has put forward a competing proposal. So this may be the first in the state, and San Juan County is often, the first to do things. What I would like us to do is continue to work together with the council and with others to really make sense of this, listen to each other, and figure out how we can move forward in a really positive way that makes sense for the voters and, more importantly, the future of San Juan County. So how that affects our timeline, and I'm going to jump back and forth between a couple things. One is when we got the change of position from our prosecutor with regard to the 2 years versus 1 year, that caused us as a full commission. We established the executive committee, and many of us have literally spent hundreds of hours in the last 2 weeks reevaluating everything. And so some folks have said, you know, you're supposed to be done in the beginning of June. Hogwash. The deadline, which actually Amy Vera said to, no, it was a quote from the prosecutor in the Island Sounder actually was, you know, I'm not sure what the rush is. We have till the beginning of August. We obviously can't submit in the beginning of August because of the work that the prosecutor's office has to do that we've just been going through in great detail, as well as the prosecutor has additional work in ballot titles, and then Mylene has to find a pro and a con person to write statements and so on. So there's all of that. There's work that has to be done is the point. However, the June 8th deadline was a deadline we gave ourselves, and not a necessary deadline, particularly based on what happened last time with the Charter Review Commission, where the county council heard the recommendations and minutes later voted to move them onto the auditor. So it doesn't take an ordinance or a resolution as was suggested to us. If they chose to do it that way, that would be their prerogative, but isn't necessary. So that by no means negates our responsibility to conclude our work in a timely manner. And so I want to continue to push us, but I also, and I stressed this in the email I sent to our prosecutor, and there were some questions on this, so I reiterated it. I have heard from not one or two of you, but several of you, that the stress is too much. People are now on blood pressure medicine and they weren't a month ago. There are people who have gone to the doctor worried, and we cannot have that sort of stress and on this commission and on ourselves as individuals. And so what I want to do is not slow down, but just take it easy. You know, we are doing incredible work that will have incredible results, and we don't have to kill ourselves to do it. So my hope is that in the coming weeks, not months, we will conclude with the back and forth with our prosecutor and have recommendations going forward. My hope is that when those go forward, maybe we can have some more conversations with the county council about what it is they're actually trying to do. Because as Anne Marie pointed out, 90% agreement, and they have basically come out and said, great idea. We have a different decision on the elected, but everything else sounds great. And so, you know, how can we work together to figure out the best path forward, and make sure that we're not confusing the voters going forward. And so as far as next steps, we just outlined many that we're going to be doing with Megan. The other thing we need to do is, once we hear back from Randy on the language that he's received or will be receiving over the coming days, then back to David Dellendorf's point, Commissioner Dellendorf's point, we will review some of that as a commission, maybe some of that at the subcommittee level, but we will then be in a place to start finalizing some of these things and moving them forward. And so I think we're in a good place, but we're definitely in a place where we need to continue to push it and not, you know, sit down, but also not kill ourselves doing it. So with that, sorry, that was a bit of a more of a philosophical statement, but the main point is I still see us not only being willing to, but being able to conclude our work in the short term. And I think we're really close. And so I'm curious if others have any thoughts or comments they'd like to make on that. Wow. All right.
Well,
okay, Bob, and then Dave. I thought I was going to move to a new business and be like, the first time I'm going to finish early.
It's just that the 2022 thing could lengthen it out a little bit, because if we're going to do the 2022 thing, we have to not send the stuff to them until after that 2021 deadline. So, you know,
based on the motion that passed an hour ago, we are moving forward with 2 ballot measures. And we would be proposing those 5 that were adopted for the 2021 ballot. And then, and remember, this was there was 2 no votes and 1 abstention on moving that proposal forward.
But Kevin, we can't send a proposal to them saying, okay, here's 5 for 21 and
No, Bob. The way it would be worded is what you and I and frankly the full commission has discussed
right
nauseum at this point, which is they will get 5 and it will say, and frankly, to your earlier point, Megan, myself, all of us will be prioritizing those 5. So as soon as those are done and we say, yeah, that's it, we're sending those to the county council. And the way the motion is today is that motion would say, or the package going to the county council would say, this is our, first batch, however we describe it, for the 2021 ballot. You should expect a second batch from us at a later date, and we will get to you those in as timely as a manner as we possibly can.
Right.
But we are prioritizing those first 5.
I'm good.
And in the motion, the proposal that I put forward was that there is still consideration regarding whether or not we will have a second batch or whether those 3 would be converted to recommendations. And so I was very deliberate in the way I put those slides together to make sure that question is still on there. Right now, we are saying we are doing 2 batches, but there will be further discussion on that and those 3 other amendments on whether or not they're 22 or become recommendations. And so I don't think we get into that tonight, but I think maybe that's, well, actually in my notes, one of the things I'm thinking is that is a discussion for next Wednesday, but it's going to depend on some other things that are going on too. So there's a lot of work going on right now to finish those 5. So we got a number of questions back from our prosecutor or issues back from our prosecutor on justice and equity that have to be discussed because there's some controversial issues there that we need to raise. So I've heard from some commissioners saying, awesome, we're done. And other commissioners saying, absolutely can't go there. And so that needs to be resolved. And so what I'm trying to do is focus my time and key persons working on this time on those 5, to your point, Bob. Let's get those done. But then let's also remember, we've got to discuss, are we still moving forward with 2 ballots? Or are we not? And then hopefully some dialogue with our council about their actions that they took yesterday, supporting one of our positions, but partially. And what does that mean going forward? So there's a bunch of other questions going on out there that hopefully we can manage the stress and get through it. Dave?
Yeah, thank you. So do you see the recommendations, just the recommendations that we're going to put forward, the 12? Do you see us doing that in August, just holding those off to August, or do you see those going in front of the council when we present the amendments as well?
So I'll preface this by saying that will depend upon whether or not we say we're doing 2 ballots or not, because if we're doing 1 ballot, we're going to submit our final recommendations and then we're done. We're no longer in office. And so if we submit a letter to the county council saying, here's our recommendations, these are our, we clarify, these are our final recommendations, or and we file, actually it's the language in the charter, we file our final recommendations with the county council. When we do that, our term of office is over. And so if we decide we're doing this in 1 batch, those recommendations need to go in at the same time. If in fact we decide we're still going with 2 batches, then sure, those could go at a later date. But I don't think they need to. If they're finished, I would say when things are finished, I think we should start submitting them. So I hope that answers your question, David. Dave, sorry. Any other comments on this? Okay. I always have classical music playing in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but Yo-Yo Ma just came in. So I just wanted to share that with you because I thought it was very timely. Let's move to new business. Anybody got any new business? I got nothing. Mylene Henley went to college with Yo-Yo Ma. Wow.
Just think how close that guy came to having his name be Yo Mama. I mean, fairly close.
No, it's a good point.
I went to the
Yo-yo.
same, I went to the same high school, but I was 2 years behind Sammy Hagar.
Oh, well.
Which is just as cool as Yo-Yo Ma. Okay, anyway, I don't see any new business. So with that, I think this is incredible, but I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, Janet and Dave seconds. Okay. I want to thank you all. Again, I think we're in a good spot. We're getting really good stuff done and we're taking bold actions for the future of our county. And it's just a little bit more work. So Paul, are you waving or did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, it's just a comment. You know, I'm just really pleased. And people have already said this about our executive committee. They made that last push, and it was the right push in order to get through the woods that we just went through. And so, again, I want to thank the executive committee.
Thanks a lot, Paul. That means a lot. I will pass on your thanks to my wife.
He deserves a lot.
So the next meeting will be this time next week, same bat time, same bat channel, 4 to 6 on Wednesday. There will be, I don't know if there's subcommittee meetings, but I know there's a lot of work going on from individuals trying to finalize some of this stuff. Jane will be looking at with others going through Randy's comments on the justice and equity. And so the agenda for next week will be really taking off where we are right now and kind of going into some of those questions. And like I said, if we have time, we'll start to get into the 2 ballots versus 1. But what I really want to focus us on, unless anybody disagrees, is finishing those 5 and really getting to the bottom of that. So yes, there's a vote. We adjourn. I know we're under discussion. I just wanted to clarify that for next week. So 4 to 6 next week. Thank you all. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
I don't, if anybody's opposed, I'm not listening to you. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.